gung-ho owner that has tons of energy can actually just create more chaos. Energy is not leadership. Ambition is not leadership. Being busy and growth isn't leadership. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast, a very awesome episode for us today. You know what we talk about? Being the CEO of your practice, but I don't think being the CEO of your practice necessarily means what you think it means. I'm going to define this. I'm going to show you my vision, but tell you how that doesn't have to be your vision. We have the closing thought of the episode. This is the Ultimate OD podcast. Here we go. All right, my friends, the Ultimate OD podcast. Thank you for the likes, the listens, the emails. Remember to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at, Spotify, Apple. Leave a review. I'd appreciate that. If you like what you're hearing, I want to know. If you don't like what you're hearing, send me an email. Let me know. I want to know that as well. But today's episode is inspired from a listener email. A longtime listener. Thank you for the email and always making me see a different perspective. And essentially the email said how much of the CEO mindset is learned versus just who you are naturally, personality. And the emailer said that he feels like I probably, and he's not wrong, me personally have always been gung-ho, laser focused, and just going after it. That I love strategy, numbers, all that stuff. And he, wants to have a successful practice, but all this stuff that I just get juiced up over and talk about would be more work than fun. And I think that's a great perspective to have. So let's get into this. Number one, he's pretty right about me. All right. I love this. I think about growth. I like building. I love the masterminds that I go to. Like, the funny thing is, I thought back to 6, 7, 8 months ago, and my ideal life was to be like Paul Karpecki. I would be a dry eye specialist. I'd be going around the nation just talking about dry eye, lecturing, being seen as an expert in the field in dry eye specifically. Fast forward to now, and I literally, if I didn't see patients and I just worked on building the business, I would be okay with that, right? I have more desire to get to my mastermind group and have them look at me and say, hey, you're running a great business, man. I don't care about the accolades from being expert. I like the identity of being good at business, running a great practice. And that's me, right? Systems, figuring out what's next. That's just how my mind works. And if you look at the heart of it, I'm probably going to push this further than many owners ever want to. But that's where I think people get it wrong. And I think that the emailer, is a little off about what CEO mindset means. And what I think he's confusing is my expression of the CEO mindset doesn't have to be what the mindset is itself. You don't have to want to be me or want what I want to be the CEO. When you think CEO mindset, at least myself, what I picture is boardrooms, financial statements, strategic plans, KPIs, multiple locations, hiring executives, aggressive growth, meetings, forecasts, spreadsheets. Oh my. And if that sounds miserable to you, not why you got into this, your thought might be, I got into this because I'm a doctor. I want to provide great clinical care. I want to be the best doctor in the town, the city, the area, right? Great. That's exactly what the CEO mindset is. It's your vision. Okay? You don't need 3 locations. You don't need to do 10 million in revenue. You don't need a GM. You don't even have to really like business, truthfully. Like, what I'm going to get to the heart is, you just have to be able to answer this question. What do you want your practice to be? You started a business. What do you want it to be? And that's where the mindset starts. So get away from all the business technical language, opportunity cost, KPIs, exam only rate, and just think about what your vision might be. And let me give you a hypothetical. Like, I want to work 4 days a week, make a great living, have a staff that enjoys coming to work, take exceptional care of my patients, and go home without thinking about the office. Now, that might be a vision. That might be yours. Someone else, me maybe, I want to be the best specialty practice in my market. I'm constantly thinking about how do I develop my doctors, develop leaders, build systems, preserve my culture, eventually have multiple locations. But there's nothing inherently more CEO in those two visions. They're both about being intentional in how you practice. So what I say is CEO mindset is just deciding intentionally, this is the practice and life I'm trying to build. And then making your decisions move you towards it. And ambition does not mean bigger, but it does mean better. How can you improve? Make yourself better. And what I think the CEO mindset fights against is letting the mood of the day run your practice. So if you don't have a vision, if you're not intentional about leadership, your practice becomes reactive to the environment. If an employee complains, you change something. Patient gets upset, you change something. You have a slow month, you panic, and you change something. You stop an initiative that you were trying to create. It's abandoned now. You're tired, your standards loosen, things get busy, training gets postponed. Pretty soon, you're not building a practice, you're just managing chaos. It's being pushed around by whatever happened most recently. And I've lived it. That's how my practice started. What was the feeling of the patients? Where did I want to go today? A month later, it'd be a different direction. Staff, their schedule changed. So guess what? My schedule had to change. That's not fun, right? And being the CEO is mentally saying to yourself, I know what we're trying to accomplish. Today's emotional information is just that, it's information, but it's not going to necessarily change your direction. Now, you don't need an MBA to think that way, right? It's just being intentional. And if you don't decide what you want your practice to become, the life you want to live, the moods, the pressures, everyone around you is going to decide for you. One of the things I think when I started thinking about what my vision was, it was, I want to be a better doctor. Say you go to a CE meeting and you go to something that you really genuinely enjoy. I tried everything: sclerals, myopia management, dry eye. And you grab something from that meeting and you're like, this could improve patient care. This could really have an impact on my patients' lives. Or you think of that patient that you could have helped. If you have a CEO mindset, it's not, that was interesting. Oh, I could have done that. It's, how do I bring this home? How do I change how I diagnose something? How I train my technicians? What piece of equipment can I now buy to provide better patient care? How do I educate the patient better so they're following through on the care I want to provide? I'm going to have a better handoff. Or measuring whether patients actually receive the care I'm trying to give. Like, that is CEO thinking. You learn, you decide, implement, and then reinforce. You don't have to call that strategy. It's just being intentional about making your practice better, being a better doctor, providing better care. That's CEO mindset, and that's learned, right? You have to learn that. And we're good at learning. It's just finding out what's your whistle, what makes you excited. A conversation I had with my associate, new associate that came on, and he's trying to figure out this optometry life. And I'm trying to guide him to the little things that I've learned along the way. And my first associate, I used her as an example, and I said, when she goes home and she's not here, what do you think she's reading about? What books is she looking at? when she's listening to podcasts, what is she listening about? I told them, when you scroll at the end of the night through your, whatever feed you want to go through, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, right? What are you looking at? That's what you enjoy, right? That's where your mind goes when you just want to zone out. One associate right now, I guarantee it's about nutrition, health, dry eye, eats, breathes, sleeps that stuff. I look at the information I get. It's about working out, being a CEO, like a leader of a practice, being a better coach, and working out. But all of that, I told them I can apply it. I can scroll through, and I'm listening to a sports podcast, and I don't care if who's my fantasy draft going to be for quarterback, right? Or what players to get. I'm listening to how a coach is leading men to be the best they possibly can be, how they motivate their team. And I can apply that to the exam room. When I listen to a podcast about working out, their trainers, Mind Pump is the podcast, so check it out if you like fitness, but Mind Pump, right? Yes, I know. I have my weirdums, right? But they're talking about how they get people to buy into the workout plan they prescribed. That's no different than buying into the dry eye treatment plan or the glaucoma treatment plan. And I apply that to my practice. I'm constantly getting information from podcasts, books, Twitter, but it's curated to what I enjoy, and then I apply that there. That's what you got to do, man. That's what gives you juice. That's what gives you energy. That's practicing with intention. It can be something as simple as you hire a new technician. There's two approaches. Number one, follow Susie around. She'll show you what to do. Or the intentional owner, the CEO mindset owner. What experience do I want this person to create for my patients? When you think that way, you're like, how do I want you to communicate? Why does this testing matter? What a good handoff to me, the doctor, looks like. What you should make the patient feel like. Don't make them feel anxious. Try to calm them. Let them know that we're good at what we do here. We'll be able to take care of their problem. What our standards are. That's culture, that's systems, that's leadership. That's being the CEO of your practice, having a CEO mindset at the most basic level. You don't need an org chart with 50 people. You just need to be intentional in how you lead your practice. And one of the things I thought was great, and I really and truly believe is, what if your entire ambition was just to make the people, your staff, love going to work every day? If that was your ambition, that was your goal, you'd have to ask yourself, do the staff, do they understand why their work matters? Do I recognize them? Do I train them? Do I give them opportunities to improve? If someone's toxic to the environment, am I willing to have that hard conversation? Do I let them know where we're going so the change that I'm making isn't out of left field? It's, hey, I think this will be better for all of us. Do I give them the tools to succeed? That's CEO mindset thinking. It doesn't have to be about EBITDA, everyone's favorite word. But because you decide what you want your practice to be like, what you want your life to be like, now you can be intentional about building it. And that's what I'm talking about. Think about your associates. How lucky are we, owners of our practices, that we get to dictate how we practice? There's a part of us, every single one of us. You may not be feeling it right now because you may be in a low point, or you may have lost this intentionality and the practice is running you, but you loved optometry. You hire someone, and if your mindset's like, how do I get another 100K out of them? How do I get them to do revenue? I don't know if that's great leadership. And that's not thinking like a CEO. I know it's like when you think CEO, you're always thinking about numbers, revenue, bottom line. But being a good leader could be, how do I create an environment where this doctor becomes excellent at what they do, where they love practicing optometry. If you think about that, you're going to help them find what they enjoy, become clinically confident. You know you have 15 years of experience, 20 years. Sharing that wisdom, mentorship, awesome. Connecting with patients, develop expertise, give them the ability to have the life they want. Avoid burning out and still loving the practice. One of the things I went to at AOA was it was a panel for young doctors, how to avoid burnout in optometry. I went there because I wanted to see what these young doctors were saying. And again, I thought it was great because I want my doctors to love what they do. I want them to have the best possible work environment. So I thought, why not find out what these people hated? Overloading them with patients, their schedule's too full, not having a support system, not being able to live their life outside of the office. Easy, right? And that is about developing your people, giving them a great environment. The doctor that emailed me, I know he's that type of person. He has a great life, has a great practice. He has associates, and just making sure they have a good living, that they take care of their patients and they can do what they want to do. That's the CEO mindset. And I mean, I know I'm being a dead horse, but I want to really communicate this because I'm so passionate about it that I am constantly giving you my vision for what it means. But what I want you to take from the conversation is the intention that you can do this at all different levels. I mean, the smallest level. You want patients that come to your office and they're going to have an exceptional experience. I don't know a single practice owner that doesn't want that. And if you think about that, you have to ask yourself, what happens when they call? What happens when they arrive? How does the tech interact with them, work them up? How does the doctor communicate? What's a handoff look like? How do they get the experience in optical? How can they order? Like, if you think about what you want that to look like, that's practicing with purpose. You design that. That series of events now becomes your system, your business model. Right? Every single one of us have a patient experience. It's just doing it with intentionality and not randomly letting it happen. If a patient has a bad experience, they give a bad review, doing something about that or seeing that there's a loose end, a gap in your patient care, hey, we need to fix that. That's what I'm talking about at its most simple level. So let's come back to this. How much of it is hardwired? I think a lot of it comes to personality. We'll go drive, competitiveness, risk tolerance, your desire to build, love of numbers, comfort with change, your appetite for growth. I'm probably higher than most on some of those levels, on some of those. And that's fine. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Consultants, books, podcasts probably won't make you love that more. And they shouldn't. But the important part, the things that can be developed, the things that you can do something about, having a vision, making deliberate decisions, communicating expectations, right? That's just good business, good leadership. Developing your people, following through with what you say you're going to do. Looking beyond today's problem, building systems, protecting culture, evaluating whether or not something works or doesn't. And then when evidence gives you the data that you're looking for, you make a decision and move. You pivot or you keep going harder. You're not necessarily going to have my appetite for growth. That I don't think can be learned. But you can learn how to lead your practice with intention. I think half the battle for me is my own personality. If you look at what I'm constantly trying to do in my office is fight my natural inclination of who I am. Because my crazy personality is an N of 1. And it's completely a turnoff to my staff, my associates, and I'm constantly fighting this. My CEO, my CEO mindset is putting a governor on all the things that you think are making me good and great, and that's what makes me a CEO. It's actually what's holding me back. My drive, my ambition, my inability to delegate. Like, if you asked me my vision right now, do I really want to go and see patients tomorrow? Not, are you good at seeing patients? Are you going to get revenue, etc.? Do I want to? I'd rather not. But even knowing that, seeing my doctors grow and develop, I am having a heck of a time not having a schedule on Wednesdays. It's like 6 or 7 exams. And I have those set out till September 1st, 2027. We pre-appoint. So right now, some patients are trying to pre-appoint on Wednesdays in September of 27, and I don't have a schedule right now. And I said to my office manager, I think I might extend it to the end of the year. And she just looked at me and said, we have an 18-month plan to get us to where I have time to do the things that you've asked me to do. I'm banking on you not working Wednesdays. I'm like, you're right. But it's really hard for me to give it up. And then she looked at me and said, what is this plan then, if you're not going to follow through with it? And again, I said, you're right. And that's me having to tone down who I am personally, my nature. So if your nature is more of the, I don't like that aspect, given your vision, that might actually be a positive. Given my vision, what I want to do, my personality and mindset is still holding me back from that. I can't give up the exam room. I don't want to be in there. Right? So learning those things is part of that process. And that's what why I have this podcast, why I talk to you about that. And it's knowing that being quiet, steady, thoughtful, that may build an incredible practice. Gung-ho owner that has tons of energy can actually just create more chaos. Energy is not leadership. Ambition is not leadership. Being busy and growth isn't leadership. All those things that I love and enjoy, if I don't communicate those well, if I don't take a step back and look at what the majority of my staff, their personality type is, I'm the detriment. I'm the bottleneck. I'm the reason why we aren't growing. So don't think that those qualities that can't be learned are what you need to be the CEO. And what I had to do is step back and ask and say to myself, do my actions consistently move the practice towards my vision? Yes or no? And a lot of the things I was doing, it was a hard no. So chew on that for a little bit. So let's bring this full circle. Let's wrap this up. Remember, to be the CEO of your practice, you don't have to add an associate, add a location, just work 2 days clinically. You don't have to build a management team. You don't have to be what I want to be. You just have to know what you want. The CEO mindset may tell you to actually not grow. If growth meant you'd move away from your desired life, then focus on things like, how do I get better margins? How do I develop my staff? Improve patient care? Create a better schedule for me and my family? I think this all comes down to being intentional, not being reactive to the environment that is around you. So figure out what you want and then build it deliberately. That's probably the biggest lesson that I can give to you, nugget, wisdom, pearl. If you listen to anyone, read any book, it's figure out what you want and do the things you need to do to make that happen. You don't have to read every business book, attend every mastermind, be obsessed with growth, but you have to answer these questions. Okay, this is what I'll leave you with here. What kind of doctor do I want to be? What kind of experience do you want your patients to have? What kind of place do you want your staff to work in? If you have an associate, what kind of doctor do you want them to become? What kind of life do you want them to have? And then for yourself, what kind of life is this practice going to give you and your family? Answer those and start making decisions intentionally towards them. And at the end of the day, that is the CEO mindset. Not building a bigger practice, not becoming someone you're not, but building the life that you want and doing it on purpose. That's what I have. We'll have more for you next week. Where has the time gone? We are to the closing thought of the episode, and I'll leave you with these two thoughts because they play in great to what this episode is really about and what I think is the heart of having the CEO mindset. Number one is it's time to get more aggressive about the life you want, right? And then two, I forget who wrote it, but he said, a mentor once told me this: you don't plan your future. You plan your actions today, and those actions create your future. That's something that he will never forget. And both of these go into exactly what I was talking about. What is the life that you want? How do you want to spend your days? Figure that out and then create the environment that allows that to happen. You don't have to worry about EBITDA, numbers, growth, org charts. What is the life you want, and how do you practice that way? What levers do you need to pull? Do it the way you want. And at that point, too, realizing that you may have to take one step back to take two steps forward. I noticed that when I step out of clinical care. That is giving up revenue that I know I could get. But with that time, if I can help my associate doctors become better doctors, give them better systems, better environments to work, and they raise their revenue, think about how much that compounds compared to me just being in the exam room for half a day. We get every single day, every single patient encounter that they work, they're better. What's the life you want? Go after it. That's what I have for you. Dr. Lilly out.